누군가에게는 사소하게 지나쳐버린 작은 기억 하나가
Mashimaro, a cute cartoon character, is not something you'd associate with a murderer. However, it's a constant reminder of a close shave with death for one woman. On June 7, 2005, a cleaner was clearing rubbish in a neighborhood in Yangchun when he came across a huge sack next to a rubbish bin. Upon closer inspection, he saw a pale hand sticking out of the sack. The cleaner assumed that the hand belonged to a mannequin and tried to pick the sack up, but it was too heavy. Feeling that something was amiss, he touched the mannequin and realized that it was a human body. In an interview, Park Sung-yeol, a homicide detective, revealed that the body was found with a black plastic bag tied over the head. There were bite marks on the woman's chest. 2 menstrual pads and several tissues were found inside her body. It seemed like the victim was sexually assaulted, but no semen or DNA were found. The victim was later identified as the 20-year-old Ms. Kwon. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation. 6 months later, on November 11, 2005, the police received a call about another body. This time, the body was found outside a restaurant. The restaurant's owner discovered a strange package outside his restaurant. Like the cleaner, he thought that the package seemed suspicious and called the police. The victim was identified as Ms. Lee. Similar to the previous victim, Ms. Lee had a black plastic bag tied around her head, and the cause of death was also asphyxiation. In an interview, law professor Yu Sung-ho stated that there were many similarities between the two cases. The women were injured in the same places, and the cause of death was also the same. Criminal psychologist Pyo Chang-won said that the method used to conceal the bodies was similar, and it wasn't something that could be easily done. The type of knot used to tie the materials concealing the bodies could be a clue to the murderer's identity. The knots seemed to be tied by someone who knew how to tie knots professionally, so the culprit could have been working in a job that involved packing boxes or other packages. Strangely, one end of the knot was cut short, making it easier to untie. Park Ji-sun, a social psychology professor, said that this could be a habit caused by the culprit's profession. Another similarity between the two cases was the victim's last known location, Sinjeong Station. Both crimes also took place on a weekend, on May 31, 2006, 6 months after the second murder. The murderer struck again at Sinjeong Station. This time, the murderer's plans failed. That day, the victim was kidnapped and brought to a dark semi-basement. While her kidnapper went to the washroom, she made a dash for the door, which happened to be unlocked. She ran to the second floor of the building and hid behind a shoe rack. There, she noticed a Mashimaro sticker on the shoe rack, as well as a flower pot on top of it. The flower pot seemed to be made by a child. Based on the victim's account, investigators realized that they should be looking for a murderer with an accomplice. The victim mentioned that she heard and saw 2 men. After hiding for a few hours, she ran away from the building and hid in an elementary school. In her panic, she did not remember where her kidnapper's building was, and neither could she recall the path she took. However, she did remember seeing many ropes in the basement where she was held captive. This seemed to prove that the murderer was involved in a packing business, or was working in a packing job. When an investigative documentary show in Korea publicized the evidence and called for witnesses in 2015, a woman called in to say that she lived in the building and owned the shoe rack with the Mashimaro sticker. She said that she vividly remembers the Mashimaro sticker, as well as the flower pot that was placed on top of the shoe rack. Her child had made it in school, and she left it out to dry. This perfectly matched the description the victim gave. She also mentioned that the man living in the semi-basement was in his 30s and lived alone. Sometimes, she would see another man with him. The police are investigating the case with this piece of information. However, it still remains unsolved.